Howdy folks, Dave Man here again, Rollman Revolution. Again, I do apologize if you hear fans in the background. Unfortunately, it's 100 degrees here in the state of Florida and, well, we're recording this outside, so I'm doing the best I can. So, anyway, the poisoning of America. That's what I wanted to talk to you about this week. This message is more or less directed to those who've been paying attention for a very long time, and for any people who are trying to educate our young folks. You young folks out there, you've been forgotten about. And I, over the last few months, have been dedicating most of my content and most of my focus in the field towards you all. Why? Because you're going to be taking over the future here pretty soon. And if you know nothing about what's really going on out there, well, you're going to be left in the dark. And I don't want that for anybody, because I think we're getting to a point in our nation's history and our world's history now that if we as a species don't start to communicate with each other on a personal level where we are in our life story, well, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter at all, because this has been going on for decades, centuries now. The lies continue to keep stacking up, and they have gotten so complex now that when we're talking about history, it depends on what version of history you're talking about. And it's going on right now as we're speaking. You know, it's very difficult to communicate with a lot of people today. And if you noticed, it's becoming harder and harder to communicate with people because everybody's coming at things from a different educational standpoint. What do I mean by that? Well, you went to school, let's say 35, 40 years ago, so you have a foundation in education in which they taught you certain things at that time. Well, the education they're teaching the children today is nothing like the education you and I may have had. Now, why is that? If we're getting better, now the only thing about education is, yes, we can refine it and we learn newer and newer things, so that the education should be getting better. But as education gets better and as new things start to surface up, we all learn about them. But have you heard anything new and revolutionary other than what AI is doing in the computer world? No, not really. And how often do you really look at your children's textbooks? How often do you really dig into what your children are being taught in school about history, science, and whatnot? We don't. Most of us don't. We don't have the time, nor do we even have the interest in looking at what. We assume that the education system, for that matter, is teaching our children properly. Well, that's where we went wrong. We started, as a human race, started relying on other people to educate our families. We started relying on other people to provide for our families. We started relying on governments to take care of our families. And I'm telling you, we don't need government any more than we need anything else in this world. What we need is good people doing good things for good causes on a regular basis. We need to be doing it for each other. We somehow lost what community is. We somehow lost what being honest is, what telling the truth is, what integrity is. American people used to have a foundation in principle where your handshake was considered your bond. Today, people lie every other word. And I don't want a future like that. You can't live in a future like that. Think about how toxic that becomes. The environments that you live in. If you just in schools and in your local groups, young folks out there, everybody knows about that one guy in the group that's just toxic, and all they do is create problems within the group, always stirring up stuff. You got to get rid of that nonsense. Otherwise, it destroys everybody within the group. And this goes even on the grander scale. I know politics and government and all of the history, that's all boring, right? It's all boring, right? But you got to remember, young folks, your history is your identity. So if, let's say for argument's sake, let's just use this on your personal level. If you're, let's say, a young kid, maybe 16 to 25, okay, and your parents and your parents' parents, that's your history. Well, let's say for argument's sake, I took that away from you and I threw you in an orphanage. And you didn't have parents, and you didn't know where you came from. You didn't know who your mom, dad was, great-grandparents, grandparents, all that stuff. You just knew that you were passed around from orphanage to orphanage, home to home, hoping that somebody would take care of you. Now, is your life going to be as good? No, of course not, because you don't have a foundation in history. You have nobody who was there before you, looking out for you. Because what parents are supposed to do is to look out for their children. And then when their children get older, they look out for their parents and their children. It's like we take care on. Our roles are going to change as we get older and as we go through our years. But We don't teach any of that in school. We don't teach about the foundation of being a good moral human being, to being an honest human being, to have integrity under any circumstances. We don't teach critical thinking. We don't teach deductive reasoning. Why? These are the things that are going to make you a better person. But we'll focus on any of that. We focus on lying you, filling your brain with fluff. Why? So that you can argue with me, and then I can argue with you. The whole idea is to cause a bee's nest, a constant state of confusion. And they do it in every sector. The poisoning of America, my friends, is on a grand scale in a variety of different ways. And when you hear me say that, because I've talked to people and in my local groups where I have communications here where I live, I said, what is the one way where if you wanted to kill somebody, if you wanted to vanquish or destroy a large population of people, what's the best way to try to do that where it doesn't make you look like the guilty party? What's the best way to annihilate a large amount of people and then make it look like it was just happenstance? That's just the fact of life. We just had a rough time period. How can you do that? Well, I can tell you how you can do that. It's through poisoning. Okay, we do it in our medicinal systems and our medicines. We can put stuff in the water, let's say. We could do that. I'm not saying we are, but I'm saying we could do that. But what poison does is it basically makes it look like a person or a group of people are just playing out their everyday life. And then all of a sudden something happens and they start to just fade away. The fentanyl crisis here in America, it's the new modern day opium wars. Okay, what's the best way to destabilize a country? Well, if you get your people addicted to drugs, okay, and those drugs in particular are killing the population, well, don't you think that that's an attack on your nation, on your history, on your culture? Well, of course it is. But we don't think any of it. Our politicians right now in Washington, D.C. are doing nothing about that. This stuff is rolling across the border in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. And is anybody doing anything about it? Of course not. They're not doing anything. It's being dispersed all over. And now all of this stuff is in a neighborhood near you. Poisoning goes even a step further in the education system. Now, people say, well, no, education is not something that's going to destroy your life. Oh, really? Like I said at the top of this, your history is your identity. So if I can provide or implant or insert stuff into your mind or your child's young mind that has absolutely nothing to do with reality, you're not going to tell me that that's not going to cause a problem in society? Of course it is. This is the whole idea why our education system is controlled by governments, and why the easiest way to manipulate a nation is by controlling the banks, controlling the education, controlling the currency and the borders, and controlling trade. But that's even on a grander scale. But the poison, we poison through our education system, we poison through our healthcare system, we poison through our monetary system. You think you're free people. Everybody thinks we're free people. Young folks out there. The United States since 1913 and the inception of the Federal Reserve System, okay, has been enslaved. That was when the United States as a republic ceased to exist, because once you gave control of a nation, the United States, money supply over to a private bank entity, do you think for 1 minute that that bank entity gives a shit less who the hell is running the country? Do you honestly think that if I control what it is you spend, that I'm going to care what it is you think and how it is you talk? Of course I don't care about what you think and what you talk, because I control what it is you can do. I control what it is you say. If I don't like what it is that you are doing, well, I can provide all the money and resources necessary to take you out by any means necessary. And look at what I'm talking about. Just look at the situation we are living in right now, the clown show at play. You honestly think that the American people, that Democrats versus Republicans is really what's kind of going on in the world? You really think that? If you are so caught up in the fact of these labels that Democrats, Kamala Harris and Walsh and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, two big that's the stage being set. What I'm talking about is you on the personal level, you, individual. How are you feeling? How are you reacting? What's going on in your life? Do these people have any impact over what's happening to you? Do these people understand the problems that you individually are going through? Most of them don't. Most of them don't care. But what I'm saying is that you have to escape from all of that. Forget about all of that stuff. if we want a nation, we want a world, we want a future that is going to be one that we can survive in, even flourish in, possibly, we have to stop arguing with each other. We have to stop pointing fingers and saying, oh, that person's a Democrat, that person's a liberal, that person's a MAGA, that person's a lefty, that person's a this. We're just people. At the end of the day, we're all just people. But it's this poisoning, this slow drip process that has gotten you to believe that I'm the enemy and that all these other people out there are the enemies with you. See, I come from the side where I lost my wife from fentanyl. Fentanyl. And anybody who has ever lost a person from fentanyl knows exactly what I'm talking about here. It's different than any other type of death. Okay, if a person got killed in a car accident, that's one thing, because there's an understanding there. It was an accident. It could have happened. But in a fentanyl death, there's more things going on there. There's lying going on there. There's, where did this person get this from? Who did they get it from? And if they got it from somebody that you know, why would they give it to that person, right? There's a lot of betrayal. But the hardest thing to deal with is the absence of that person. The person was there and now they're just ripped out of your life, gone, swept under the rug like nothing ever happened. Does anybody get charged? No. Poison is by far the most painful way to watch anybody go, because you can't do anything about it. They just are ripped out from your life and there's nothing you can do about it. You feel defenseless. And for many months I felt defenseless. Many months I felt, yeah, this doesn't even seem real. How could something like this happen? I played by all the rules. I've done everything the way you're supposed to do it. Why would I have to endure this? Why would my wife have to endure any of this? Because we stopped caring. Americans stopped caring. We're so busy arguing about being right that we're not worried about getting things right. We're so worried about, oh, my party is so more important. Yeah, my abortion issue is so important. My trans rights are so important. Well, what about the lives of everybody? Just being able to breathe, being able to walk down the street and not having to get destroyed. You think trans rights is so silly? You think that matters in a global stance? How you feel, your feelings. That's the problem with this division and conquer thing. The poisoning of the minds of the young folks. They have told you that your feelings have any place in the grand scale of the world, because feelings, unfortunately, change like the weather. You could be happy one minute and be sad the next. And you can compound these things over a course of time as well. But the thing is that your feelings are often, most times, your feelings are being manipulated by the people and these structures and these psyops going from a variety of different avenues. And you're the one falling for it every single time. I'm struck. But when I talk to people on the beach, when I do my polling where I live, at some of the things that come out of the young mind's mouth. And I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm just saying, where is this information coming from when a person really thinks that America is inherently racist? Do you know that America gives more money in aid to any other country in the world, right? You're paying for it. Right now, while you're suffering, right now, young folks out there, if you're watching this video, if you're suffering right now, living paycheck to paycheck, or trying to figure out how I'm going to get that house, how am I going to get that car, how am I going to raise a family, you're right, you're not going to be able to. You know why? Because your government's been giving all of your money, savings, treasure, and pissing it away and giving it to all their friends. They've been funneling money overseas. All of these ridiculous clowns that we call representatives. You know they work for other people, right? They don't work for you. The only way we're going to get this government in line is when we stop arguing with each other and start putting people up there that actually represent us. I've had this conversation over and over again in my videos. But young folks, you want to try to get out of this problem. You really are looking for the answers to all of your questions, all of your future concerns. Well, it starts by researching where the poison is coming from. Like I said at the top of this, it's a poison process. Well, how do you know if you're being poisoned? Because I said when a person dies, it just looks like they died a natural death. Like, my wife died from a fentanyl overdose. Now, there's no way I would have known unless I did an autopsy, but obviously something major happened. But there's no way to know until you dig deeper, right? Discover more stuff that's hidden below the surface, because people don't just drop dead. People don't just come out of school with an education in bullshit and think that they are God's gift to creation. No. The young mind coming out of school believes what they have been taught is the truth, because why would all of these institutions teach this stuff to them if it wasn't true, right? But you got to dig a little deeper. When you start to dig deeper and pull back the layers of nonsense that is covering the education system, the political system, the economic system, all of the national wars that you see, when you dig below the surface, you start to discover that all of this stuff is contrived and contrived in a way to manipulate and cause you to fall. The whole system is set up that way, because there's no way you can control a populations of billions of people unless you constantly keep them in a state of unrest. You have to constantly keep them wobbling, because if they're wobbling, they can't be focusing. If I'm constantly working to try to keep my balance, there's no way I can start moving forward, right? Because I'm worried about falling off all the time. And that's all they're doing. When you stop, I'm asking the young folks of America and the people that are fighting amongst each other, especially these young voters and the Republicans and the Palestine versus Israel, the wars have to stop, period. Because you understand what war has done? All war does is it literally destroys that nation, and then we make that nation, end up having to pay reparations for the war. You destroy the nation, buy up all the real estate for free, and then go back in and rebuild the country on that country's dime. War has always been good for business. Why? Because anytime one war ends, they always start up another one. Did you ever notice that? It never ends, because the military-industrial complex, which we were warned about many, many, many moons ago, constantly wants to be fed. And then when you understand that the banks, the centralized banks, which, remember, was passed in the United States in 1913, and a Christmas break when everybody was home on vacation, they snuck it in. And that's when America died. The only way you're ever going to discover how you're being poisoned is if you start researching and digging below the surface, because they're not going to tell you, hey, look, I just poisoned you. The mainstream media is not going to come out every single day and say, hey, guess what? We just gave you another dose of our bullshit. We just gave you some more stuff to confuse you. Oh, you went to college for another 2 years? Yeah, Harvard University. We gave you all that stuff just to confuse you. Oh, we taught you all that other critical race theory just to confuse you. You think they're going to come out and say that? No, they're not. The only way we get out of this is when people start to wise up. And you hear these cliches being thrown out all the time. Young folks, you need to be more paid. Young folks, millennials, Gen Zs, they're just lazy, they're just stupid, they're just confused. I'd be confused too if I just came out of school, was taught a whole bit full of nonsense, and then come out into the real world and then try to ascertain all of this based upon the information that I was taught. Yeah, nothing makes sense. I agree with you. It all doesn't make sense. And you know why? Because they didn't teach you anything of value. I am trying to pump the brakes for everybody here and recognize you don't need them. What you need is to equip yourself with the skills necessary to take on this world, and you can do it without school. You don't need to go to all these higher levels of education. I'm not saying it's not a good deal for certain people, but majority, it's all nonsense. Most of the jobs that you need to do to succeed in this world don't require a college education. It's a game being played on so many levels. You hear me say this and repeat this all the time, and I can dig into one video just what I mean when I say so many levels and what's going on behind the scenes. But if you knew really what was happening to you, you wouldn't be fighting with me. You wouldn't be fighting with your neighbor. You wouldn't be arguing with Democrats or Republicans alike, because you start to realize that we're not that much different. Those labels were slapped onto us so that we would never communicate. Republicans can't communicate with Democrats. Blacks can't communicate with whites. Pro this can't communicate with anti this. No, you can't talk about anything. Because once you're in that camp, you can't talk to that camp. I did a video about the trick being played against you. That is the trick. When they start to divide you and me, that's the trick. But how they trick us is through poisoning our brains, poisoning our health, poisoning our economics, poisoning our culture, poisoning our borders. Let's just talk about the borders. Look what's happening over in Europe, okay? Right after all of that crap went down in Syria, when they had all the Syrian refugees, well, they took 6 million Syrian refugees and pushed them into Europe and made the European people take care of them, pay them, give them housing. And a lot of these people, because they are from Muslim countries, have multiple wives. Guess what? They had multiple children now in the new world that they're living in. So now countries that used to be predominantly white, or let's say English, Irish, French, are now being overtaken by Middle Eastern people. So the culture is entirely different now. And then you're wondering why things are breaking down in England and in France and all. It's all by design. What do you think they're doing here in the United States? Why do you think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris opened the southern border and just allowed all of these refugees from all over the world to just come on in? Because when you don't have a border and you have people that come into your country and start ripping it apart and start tearing down your relics, your history, your identity, that's when nations fall. This game is being played and has been going on for decades, centuries, millennia maybe, I don't know. But it's not that hard to recognize. You just have to realize bullshit when it's being presented to you. And once you do, and once you start getting good at peeling away the layers of nonsense, once a person talks, you know right away whether or not they're touting you truth or nonsense. You get so good at it. You get so good at it. You're not afraid to take on any conversation because you're coming from a concentration about getting it right, not trying to be right. I've changed my perspective over the last few years. I always was one of those guys that say, I have to have the right answer. I have to have the right solutions. I have to have the right argument. I don't have to have the right anything. I just want to get it right. Maybe you got a better idea than I do. Maybe I have a better idea than you do. But we're never going to get there if we just keep arguing with each other. We got to throw all the ideas out on the table. The good ideas rise, the bad ideas fall. But it comes down to lying. I think it's time that this society, our society, human society, okay, breaks away from the pillars of control. We don't need people telling us how to live. Communities and societies as a whole for decades, years, and millennia as well, dealt with their own problems internally. Yes, I'm not saying that it's nice to have a civilized society of laws, but when you have human beings running things, there's always that potentiality for corruption. Always. Now, this does not mean that I want computers to take over or AI to take over. I don't want anybody to take over anything. I want human beings to start wising up. I want human beings to start caring about each other. I want human beings to start recognizing the problems that they are creating themselves by perpetuating this nonsense, this lie of the label game that they keep pushing on us. You're human beings, male and female. That's what we all are. Living a life on this plane, trying to get through one day at a time. That's what we are. We're not a black man. We're not a white man. We're not a black woman. We're not a white woman. We're not this. We're not that. Those are just labels. That's something that somebody else put on you. That's something else that somebody else gave to you. I've talked about this before in other videos as well, that you came into this world not knowing anything. You rely on all of the people that came before you to tell you what this is. They even told you who your name was. Your name is David. That's what you're going to be called. So you just say, yeah, I guess I'm David. Somebody told you that, but maybe your name's Rick. Maybe your name's Joey. Maybe your name's Samantha. But that's what they gave you. And every other piece of information in your mind, unless you dug and started digging, looking into it yourself, it's all been handed to you, all been spoon-fed to you. The question you need to start asking yourself as an individual, have I been poisoned? How do I know if I've been poisoned? The only way to know if you've been poisoned is to investigate, to figure out if the things that you have been ingesting are destroying you. Are the things that the school system or my groups that I've been hanging out with, or the groupthink of the cities and the parties that I belong to, and have they been poisoning my mind? I'm saying this not to be right. Like I said, my goal is to get things right, to have a future that makes your life better and my life better. It's not about me. Look, 90% of the time, I'm not even going to communicate with you over the issues of the world. We don't have the time for that. Most of the time, unless people are having abortions on demand on a regular basis, don't really worry about that. because it's not a major issue in most people's lives. I believe that if you can educate a population properly, stop lying to them, give them all the tools they need, and throw them out on the table, make them readily available to every individual, stop lying to people, I bet you will have a much better society. When a government stops hiding all the information, hiding all the technology, hiding everything. Look, we're still stuck on, 20th century fossil fuels, right? Solar and all of those other powers are not there. But what about all the free energy devices that the United States government has stole the patents on and basically said that they're a violation or a threat to national security? No, it's not a threat to national security. It destroys the system, because the only way these global systems work is by the control of resources, the control of money, control of economics, control of trade. Now you think about that. When you see how this, what they call it, the aristocracy, I can't remember the terminology, but I'll have to put a notation at the bottom. But anyway, when you have those pillars all under control, which is what our government really has, or this fourth branch of government, this hidden government. You see, everything that we see in this world is a facade. And you're going to discover that, young folks, as you start to dig deep and stop arguing with me. You're going to start to realize that the governments that you see, the economic system that you see, the people and the party and the players, all of your Hollywood stars, everybody gets to a certain position, but they are told to do a specific role once they get to that position. There are puppeteers behind the scenes with their hands up the asses of these individuals, telling them what to do, what to say, and how to say it. A good example is, as look at the Kamala Harris campaign. The reason why people can't get behind a lot of people, look, I worked on election day in Florida this past day, and I'll tell you, many Democrats were pissed off. Many nonpartisans were pissed off that Trump wasn't on their ballot. Now, Florida is a closed state, but still, there were so many Democrats who wanted to vote for Trump. They were pissed that Kamala Harris's name is on the ballot, or other name other than what they were looking for was on that ballot. Now, what does that say? People are tired of being lied to. And young folks, I see so many young folks talking about this Kamala Harris thing. Do you know what you're voting for? Do you really know what you're voting for? That's what I want people to understand. Is it what you're being told, or is it something you have done the research on? Do you really know what's going on here? Because deep down, I'm telling you, when I talk to people, it doesn't seem like they really understand the issues. And the only way you're ever going to get at it is to figure out who's poisoning you. To figure out who really is poisoning the mind. Your mind. Because how are you supposed to navigate this world every day if you're being told lies by the people who came before you? You came into this world not knowing anything, and everything that's in your brain right now has been fed to you. Well, most of it. Unless you did the due diligence yourself. And if you did, you're not even listening to this video right now because you already know. This message is for those out there who are struggling, trying to figure out, trying to navigate. Where am I supposed to go? First, re-examine what you truly do know. Re-examine what you believe, and then come to that understanding of why you believe it. And if it's something that doesn't hold up, well, then let go of it. Don't hang on to something that you know for sure doesn't serve you and doesn't make any sense. And then start going a little bit further than that, because once you get on this path, my friends, I'm telling you, you're not going to want to stop, because there's nothing better than learning that somebody has been lying to you, and that the information that somebody has went out of their way to force down your throat. Once you discover that, man, why? Then you got to start asking, why were they trying to feed that crap to me? Why were they trying to get me to believe something that's not true? That's the interesting part. Human beings, people, I'm telling, we are so much more powerful than they are giving us credit for. And I'm telling you, if you look at the old world structures that are around this world, just look at the Colosseums, the buildings, these cathedrals, these monumental buildings, these structures that are all over the world. Something about our history is a lie. And somehow, in my opinion, we have been enslaved by something. Somebody controlled all the resources, all the banks. When you control the wealth, the economics, the trade, all of it, you control the resources, you can control the world. What I'm saying is, why are we letting anybody control any of this? There's all of us. And we're fighting amongst each other. Well, a small portion of bad people are enslaving us all. When are we going to stop taking the poison? When are we going to start letting other people know that they are being poisoned with this nonsense that is destroying their mind, their life, and their world? My goal from the beginning is always to try to put you in the room, to try to bring you to the places that are going to make you the most powerful individual you possibly can be. Now, listening to me is just a guide. I don't have all of the answers, but I can tell you from my own experience that the world being presented to you through the television, through the social media, through the education systems, and all of the other government-controlled entities now is bullshit. It's all bullshit. The way you discover what truth is by living in the real world, talking to real people, and actually engaging in the process. Go to the places they say the bad stuff is happening. Go talk to the people they say are a certain way. Go talk to the individuals they have character assassinated, and find out for yourself if that person is truly what they claim them to be. We have a 93% controlled media, a government that has no problems destroying its own people at the behest of saving its own ass. And you're going to tell me that the argument is between me and you? Why are we falling for this trick still? Why are we still ingesting the poison? Why are we still allowing our children to go to these schools? Why are we not getting directly involved in our education system? And why are we not caring about each other anymore? You see, I think the fundamentals is where we've lost it. When Americans start caring about each other, when you first start caring about yourself, I know that this sounds going off on a subject, another tangent again, Dave, but when you start caring about yourself and realizing that your needs are important, that your wants, your hopes, your dreams, all that stuff is important, you become more in tune with who you are. But it's knowing why those things are important to you. It's knowing why that's the life you want. But once you understand that, then it's surrounding yourself with people that also want that for you, that may not be interested in whatever it is that you're doing, but love the fact that you're interested in it and enjoy the fact that it makes you happy. Because we need to nurture what makes other individuals in this world happy. We need to start caring again. We need to start loving again. We need to start looking at our neighbor as not a label. Looking at each other as not a bunch of labels. I am not a white Christian man. I'm just Dave. That's it. Stop throwing all these labels on me. I don't throw labels on you. Once you get rid of all of that shit, we're just people. And I want your life to be better. I certainly hope you want mine to be better. And then when we all want that for each other, magic happens. We are so confused, and we have been so hypnotized by the spells and the magic of nonsense that is being flushed on us every day through every cable of information you could possibly imagine. People don't think this is important. Many people think that, they're just going to do whatever they want anyway, and it's not going to matter. I guess you haven't gotten out of the United States. I guess you haven't seen what it's like to live in a dictatorial third world country. The only thing I can say is you need to get out more, because I can send you down to Uganda, and I can send you down to some of these places that are true hellholes, that people are struggling to put food on their table, and it's all by design. Because if I can make it difficult for you to have your next meal, well, I don't think you're going to be fighting to try to overthrow my government if you can't even afford or figure out a way to feed your family. That's problem number one. They're making it so difficult, my friends, for you to even fight back. And if you keep falling for the poison, keep swallowing the BS sandwiches that they keep giving to you, the country, the freedoms, all of the stuff that sounds so cool and looks so hip and is so interesting, and the groups that you're a part of, they ain't gonna matter. You know why? Because eventually all of the bullshit and the facade and all the crap that they kept promising you, they're gonna just take it away. And then when they do, you will be a permanent slave in a society that they have set up. And if you don't like it, well, they'll just get rid of you. The next generation is going to learn and think that's the new normal. That's the new society, because that's the society that they were brought up into. They won't know of a free America. They won't know of a constitution. They won't know of a world in which you could speak out and have your voice heard. They won't know of any of that. Because once they erase the Constitution, once they get rid of all of the free speech, once they divide you and I up so bad to the point where nobody's talking to anybody, once they have set that into place, and they pretty much have done that now, it gets to a point where you can't undo the damage that has been done. Look, there was I'm trying to remember who it was I read. They said that the only way to usher in this new world order is they're going to have to kill close to 1.5 billion people worldwide. Now just think about that. The fact that somebody could even say that out loud to usher in this control system. We got to get rid of so many people. Well, the one way to do it is to collapse the global financial system, which is what they're doing right now. When you take the dollar off as the prime reserve currency, my friends, oh boy, things are going to get bad quick. But you see, your history is your identity. If you poison the history, if you destroy the history, which is the language, border, and culture of your nation, well, then you don't have an identity. You no longer exist as a nation. And when you no longer exist as a nation, what happens? Anarchy. You don't have a system of government anymore. Now you become the slave to whatever the next person installs. And if you don't like it, tough shit. That's what we're trying to prevent. That's what I'm trying to prevent. And the way we prevent it is by educating you. We got to come together. We may not agree on all the issues. We're not going to. But that's what talking things out does. Look, in your family, remember when you have an argument with your mom, dad, or your brother? You'll argue and you throw things at each other. And sometimes it'll come to fisticuffs. You never know. But when you stop and everybody calms down and then you come together and you talk it out, most of the time, you may not walk away, but we walk away saying, all right, we got this. I got it. It's okay. But we're not even doing that anymore. We're bashing each other over the head. We're punching each other in the face. And we're not getting anywhere. These assholes are still running away with it all. They're stealing everything from us. And then they're creating new psyops, new things to disrupt the world we live in, to divide you and me even further. Stop falling for these tricks. Stop ingesting the poison. And if you want to know what poison you have ingested already, stop, write all the things down you believe, and try to figure out why you believe them. Try to research what you really know, what is really going on up there. All of the things that they taught you in school, are they really true? All of the science stuff, all of the history stuff, is it really true? Start looking. And when you start looking, you're going to find that little niche of information, that stuff that really excites you. And you're not going to want to stop. And I don't want you to stop, because that is where the journey begins for you. And it is an exciting journey once you start to realize there's a game being played right in front of you. And then when you can pull yourself out of it, it's almost like pulling yourself out of the matrix. And you're like, now you're looking at it from a side view and you're going, whoa, wait a minute. That guy and that guy, they're playing against each other. Oh, wait a minute, they're funding both sides of the war. Oh, wait a minute, so they're funding both Israel and Palestine? Wait a minute, how can a government do that if we're supposed to be pro this, but yet we're funding both sides of the war? Exactly. They did it in World War I. They did it in World War II. They did it in Vietnam. They did it every war you could possibly imagine. These players, this fourth branch of government, this global elite, whatever you want to call them, the ones that are making our lives hell, well, those are the ones going out of their way every single day to ensure your and my life suck. And they do not care. They will not stop. And that has been the game as far as I've been alive, and you still see it playing out. I can guarantee you, my friends, we are on the cusp of World War III. And if these people, these global elites, get what they want and push what they want, this Congress is going to belly up, and we're going to be at war real soon. The only reason why war exists is to destroy and turn up nations. And we fall for it every time. We go and fight in these wars. We give up our time, our talent, of course, all of the treasure, our resources, our lives. And for what? How often do you benefit from any war? Name a single time in American history where you as an individual benefited from any one of these foreign wars. Nope. I think we are turning the corner. I think human beings, well, I'm at this point where before I die, I kind of hope. I'm at that point of a hope on this one. Because I see people wanting to turn, but will they? It's that, I see it in your face. I see it in the eyes of all of these confused young people. I see it in you. I see that fire. I know nothing makes sense, and you want to believe all of the people who taught you those things that are rolling around in your head are true, because you don't want to believe that. Why would my teacher, why would my friends, why would my family, why would the people that I look up to lie to me? Maybe they were lied to. Maybe they don't know as well. That's why I'm saying the only way you're ever going to discover how you've been poisoned and why you believe what you believe is to really ask yourself that question. Really dig down deep. Go past the stuff that they tell you. No, you don't need to look any further. We're going to tell you what the news is. Sit right there. Don't move an inch. We got it for you. That has not worked for us. It will never work for us. You cannot rely on what somebody else tells you the truth is, because you will still have to take their word for it. The only way you will ever know what the real truth is when your eyes, your ears, nose, all of your senses discover it for yourself. That's when you truly know. Truly know. And when you are in a body around a group of people that all they're doing is seeking the right answers, trying to get it right, not try to be right, but to try to get it right, which means it's a continuous pursuit of truth. When you are around a group of people like that, you yourself will start to re-examine everything that you know. You start calling your own bullshit out. I started to realize when I remember during the old Iraq war, when I was so pro George W. Bush and get Saddam Hussein, I was all caught up into all of that, right? Then when I saw the weapons of mass destruction thing come down, and then I realized, oh, he lied about that. Well, if they lied about that, then you start to, it's called deductive reasoning. You start, well, if they lied about that, then that means that they also lied about the preemptiveness of going in there. So they knew that they didn't have these bombs, but they still went in anyway. So what was the reason? You have to start asking, well, what is the reason now for going into these wars? If it wasn't for the imminent danger that they sold the American people on, that this man had weapons of mass destruction that could kill innocent people and destroy the United States as we know it, all this crap the media kept selling us, right? For months and months and months and years. It was all bullshit. Just think about how many times the mainstream media, the 93% of everything you read, watch, and listen to, has gone over the top to lie to you about what's really going on in this world. Just think about that, young folks. And then ask yourself why everybody's arguing with what. You think the country really is 50-50 divided, that the country is so divided that nobody agrees on anything, that the world is so messed up. It's not. The world is messed up because everybody's coming from a position of different information. How is it that everybody's truth is the right truth? How is it that your group is the right group and my group is the right group, but yet my group doesn't agree with your group, right? The reason why is because the groups in and of themselves, the labels that have been attached to all these groups, don't really exist. Ideas constantly flow, and based upon the information you have at the time you come to those conclusions will determine where your ideas and where your thought processes go. But just think about this for a minute. If more information was given to you, you had more tools thrown in the toolbox, don't you think you could come to a better solution with more obvious answers available to you? Of course you could. And everybody could, but that's not what's happening. They've isolated you and say you can't see this information, you can't see that information. They algorithm the system so that you only see certain things, and they never show you all of the other things. Doesn't that make you upset? What if your wife, girlfriend, or somebody important to your life needed a specific drug, but they hid that drug from you? I'm just using an example here. Let's say they hid that drug from you and they told you it doesn't exist. So the whole time you're thinking there's nothing you can do, and then your girlfriend, loved one, or something like that dies. But then you find out later that that drug was fully available, but the doctors and the medical industry hid it from you. You'd be pretty pissed off. that those people did that, because now you could have done something with the information that you had, but you didn't know because they hid it from you. But that goes on every single day in this country. This whole information warfare is designed to pin you against me, to put the young person against the old person, to put this group against that group, blacks against whites, Hispanics against the... It's all designed to take the labels that they have put on you and me and break us up, cause us to fight, cause explosions, cause wars, cause conflicts. There would be no war if it had to be fought by the assholes who start them. That's the reality of the world we're living in. The fact that we are still arguing about war, the fact that we are still arguing about rights, the fact that yet we have a body, the most richest nation in the world, and we can't figure simple things like this out. Do you want to know why we don't figure this thing out? Because we have a centralized bank currency that controls the monetary system of this nation, America. It controls our country, and he who controls the monetary system controls the world. All they have to do is control trade, control the economic system, and control the politicians. And they do it right now. That fourth branch of government, these Klaus Schwabs and all of these other back alley guys that have their hands up the politician's ass, nodding their head, where you think, oh, that's Mr. Mike Johnson. He's my representative. He's a good Christian man. He represents me. No, he don't. These people, especially if they've been in that establishment little Washington, D.C. zone for any period of time, they don't have your back. They were put there by this global financial elite who has all of the money now, controls all of the banking, controls the monetary system of this country. They put the people that they want to into power. People like, a good example, Kamala Harris, who has not a brain in her head, but yet it makes it easy for them, because when you have somebody who's that stupid, but believes that are so power hungry and loves the title and loves all the flashy that goes along with the job, okay, they become very dangerous people, because now who's running the country? Because it ain't Kamala, because she's not brilliant. It's the same thing, the question you have to ask yourself right now. Who is running the country? Joe Biden went out on the DNC just the other night and started touting out a whole bunch of nonsense that were all based upon bullshit and lies. Keep pushing the fact about Trump saying that he said that the Ku Klux Klan were good people. That has been proven to be false, but yet he continues to keep saying it. The Democrats continue to keep saying lies that have been proven to be false, because they know that the low information voter, or the person out there who's been poisoned thus far, is going to continue to keep taking the poison without figuring out they're being poisoned. You are smarter than this, America. How is it that I can get you to just stop? I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to take care of you. I'm asking you to re-examine you, to really understand why you believe what you believe, because it doesn't matter. In the end, I'm going to be dead. In the future, I'm going to be dead. It's not going to matter. This is going to be your future. And if you don't re-examine really what's going on here, the reality in the future, if you let this play out without getting involved and went out saying, no, I've had enough, the outcome is not going to be what you want it to be. And in the end, you're going to be stuck in a slave system. Your children will know nothing more than that slave system. And the America that you heard about, the history books that they are in the classrooms right now, will never exist, because they'll rewrite the script over again, discontinuing all of that. What happened? George Washington? We ain't gonna. If at the rate it's going, there's not going to be. We're not going to be teaching kids about a constitution. We're not going to be teaching kids about the rule of law. We're not going to be teaching kids about George Washington and the United States and the Constitution. None of that. At the direction we are heading, the whole goal is to divide and conquer, and ultimately turn the United States into a usurper country where we are just slaves, hamsters on the wheel, busting our ass every single day just to get the bare minimum so that we can survive. Why? Because when you are fighting that hard to survive, you can't fight the powers that are doing it to you. Look at third world countries. Look at what's happening in Europe. Look at those countries as an example. Look at everything that's happening there is slowly happening here now. And they've increased it and they've amped it up even worse since the Biden administration has taken over. And you don't think that can happen here? You got 15 to 20 million illegal people in this country, scattered all over, drugs everywhere. The language, the border, the culture is being destroyed by the day. And yet, they have you and me still arguing with each other over trans rights, abortion rights. Are you serious? You're not going to have a country anymore. And you're talking about color wars? Talking about label games? I watched the DNC. I watched the RNC, the Republican National Committee. These are for the young folks out there who don't watch this stuff. The Republican National Committee, which happened a couple months ago, where all of the agenda or what the game plan for that Republican Party is going to be is mentioned at that thing. Same thing with the Democrats. They're holding theirs right now. And if you were to watch the first couple hours of it, it's sad. It's very awful to think this is the platform that Democrats believe they want to take the country. There's nothing there. And I'm not saying the Republicans are that much different, but the convention that happened a few months back for the Republicans was different than anything I'd ever seen. And I am not a party guy, and everybody knows that I hate the whole label system. Parties don't matter anymore. People do. And if you are on the same track like I am about getting things right, you're not worried about being right, you just want to get things right, well then you and I are on the same team. And you and I are the ones that are going to make the world a better place, because it's not about the labels. Fuck those labels. I'm sorry I had to use that word. I am so tired of people trying to stamp labels on people and tell me you're a black man. No, you're not. You're a dark skin. You're just a man. You just got darker skin than I do. That's it. You're a black woman. No, you're just darker skinned. Stop using the colors. Darker skin. We're all. That's what's so funny about this. The same thing with the trans thing. Oh, there's 50,000 genders. No, there's not. There's only 2. Just like there's only 2 types of people in the world, male and female type of people. That's it. They range in a variety of different shapes, sizes, and colors. That's the range of colorings. But those are all descriptives. That's not who anybody is. Those are descriptives. Those are labels. At the end of the day, when you rip all the layers apart, what are you? Man, woman. Woman, man. That's it. Life is designed to be very simple. But all of this nonsense that they've taught you through the education, through our economics, through the language, border, culture, all of it is designed to pin you against me, to cause the confusion. That's the poison. That is the poison. My wife was taken away from me from a poison that I didn't even know existed. Didn't even know it was around me. And now it's gone. She's gone forever. And this is happening right now. As I'm recording this video, people are dying, choking to death, suffocating to death from this ongoing fentanyl opium war that has been put in our country by the Chinese Communist Party and then cartelled into the United States by the Mexican cartels, distributed all around the country on Joe Biden's dime. This is not a hit at anybody. This is a fact. And if you don't believe me, well, just go down to a city near you, go down to the worst areas of the city, and I can guarantee you're going to find every drug you could possibly want that could kill everybody in your community. And nobody seems to think that that's not... We stopped caring. That's why. Americans stopped caring for each other. We stopped using deductive reasoning, critical thinking, and we stopped caring. We forgot what it meant to be human. We forgot what it meant to be good. We forgot what it meant to have integrity. We forgot that lying, just lying, is unnecessary, is uncalled for, and destroys. We are never going to graduate in any reality. It doesn't matter if you were to kick me off of this reality right now and place me in another one. If you bring the same mental acuity that you have here in this world to another one, it will destroy it as well. Because we are looking at things the wrong way. We have been poisoned. Our minds have been poisoned by our education system and everything that comes out of this mainstream. Everything that is being spoon-fed to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's nonstop. And the only antidote to this chaos is you, is me, and us talking to each other, us listening to each other, us coming to the table and you bringing all of your ideas and I'm bringing all of full transparency. I would love a world where you share what you know and I share what I know and we help each other. I want a community where I don't have to go to work and make millions of dollars a week because everything in the community is readily available. Where I'm not spending my entire life on energy and insurance because free energy is available. If you knew the amount of stuff that is being suppressed because of control of resources, like energy is one of them. Think about this for a minute. If I could give you a device right now that allow you to live anywhere in the world, you could just take this device and move someplace, put it down, plug all your stuff into this device that takes energy out of the ether, and you could live your life anywhere. Think about how that would change the world we live in. We wouldn't be stuck to one spot, would we? We wouldn't be worried about our toothpick houses and our slab-on grade homes and all of this. No, we wouldn't. Because we'd be exploring. We'd be doing all these other things. It's funny. You know, the one thing I find interesting about education is education always seems to have the answers for everything. And if they don't know, they have somebody who came up with a theory. And the theory is accepted as truth, even though it's still a theory. See, human beings and Americans in particular think a lot of these theories are fact when they're not. We assume a lot. And when we make those assumptions, we end up going down the pathway that leads us to some place that we really don't know what we're talking about, don't know what's really going on, but we assume we do. And that makes us dangerous because then we start spreading the nonsense to the world in which we really don't know what we're talking about. I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you're guilty of it. We're all guilty of it at some point in our life. But that's where discovering how you've been poisoned comes in. Because once you start recognizing that, oh, wait a minute, I was wrong about that. Well, how many other things have I been wrong about? For me, it was the whole Iraq war. That whole situation that occurred after 9/11. Everything about the buildings to the attack, all of it. It's all about money. It's all about control. It's all about readjusting the world and repositioning the world for a global financial elite to take it eventually over. The United States is now being attacked. Europe is now being attacked as we speak. It's going on right now. And how are they doing it? Through destruction of the language, the borders, and the culture. The influx of all of these Palestinians, all of these Lebanese people throughout Europe. And look what's happening. It's not by accident. The way we get out of this, stop taking the poison. Stop ingesting the bullshit sandwich. Stop fighting each other. If I die tomorrow, the one thing I really wish people would understand or really could get from anything is you have to recognize how much power and influence you have. And when you start walking and start hanging around a bunch of people that also recognize that power, you become an unstoppable force because you start to share the ideas, you start to recognize the goodness in all things. And then you start to realize, you know what, I just want to get it right too. My whole life would be so much better if I just got things right all the time. But wouldn't your life be so much better if you could just make the right decision every time? Well, imagine a world where all of the resources and all of the things that you need to make those right decisions are readily available, where you actually had a government that set you up for success, didn't set you up for failure every single day. Our system is setting you up so that you are going to fall flat on your face all the time. Well, how do you think you're ever going to fix that? Well, the only way it's going to get fixed is if you fix it, because these people set that fucking program up. They're the ones who set it up. They're the reasons why we are in the mess we're in right now. The only way to get rid of the mess is to get rid of the problem. Take the poison and throw it away. I hope this helps. I know I ramble on a lot. My intentions are always to try to bring good to the world. I am tired of watching bad things happen to good people. I am so tired of watching people bust their ass their whole life to have nothing. I am so tired of the good guys losing. I am so tired of watching evil disseminate itself through people who are really genuinely good, and it just takes them over and destroys them, their families, and everything else around them. I've watched so many things over the last 10, 12 years just break down in front of me to a point now where I said enough's enough. I don't care if I die in this process. I will continue to keep fighting every single day to ensure that the next generation that comes past me, who's stuck in this shithole, this realm, had it a little bit better than I got it. That's the only thing I'm doing, because that's what I believe I'm supposed to do. I believe it's my responsibility as an individual to hand it off to other individuals better than I received it. I am a steward of myself, but I'm also a steward of knowledge. I believe sharing what the truth is matters. Being honest matters. Telling people, look, this is the best information I have. This is what I know. It may or may not be true, but this is what I know. Being honest with people and meeting them where they are in their life story. Not belittling them, but understanding where they are and how they came to their conclusions, and then having discussions over that. Because the only way we're going to get past this, my friends, is to talk to each other again. Stop falling for the trick. Stop eating the poison. And stop letting the poison destroy us. We are much stronger when we are united, which is why every single day they are fighting to divide us. Stop falling for that. Stop falling for their bullshit. We are a powerhouse, and our lives will change. They will be better, stronger, faster. They will blossom. They will bloom. They will thrive under any condition, as long as America and Americans start giving a shit and start taking care of each other again. When we start loving, things get better. When we start worrying, we start fearing, it all falls apart. They win. Stop being afraid. I am not your enemy. Your neighbors are not your enemy. The people within your community, majority of them, they're not your enemy. You know where the problems are. You know what they are. Deep down, you know what they are. We got to stop arguing about color. We got to stop arguing about race. We got to stop arguing about sex. We got to stop arguing about these labels. Because that's just poison. It's no different than the fentanyl that killed my wife. It's a different kind of poison that just destroys the mind slowly. It destroys it slowly so that the identity of the world that you're living in no longer exists. Because once they can erase your history, game over. You lose. They win. And I don't want that for anybody. I have seen too many countries and I've seen too many families get destroyed in my lifetime, and I'm not even in a forward area. I don't even live in a third world country. But to see the amount of hell in America in just a short period of time means that we are on a path to destruction if we do not turn around quickly. We are going to win in the end. But how quickly that happens depends on you. You young folks out there, I've been working with you all for a while, and you know that, look, you can make fun of me. I don't care. I can take the hits. I got thick skin. But it's not about making fun of me or making fun of what it is I'm trying to portray. It's about trying to get you to pay attention. I want your life better. I really do. And the only way it's going to get better is if you arm yourself with the truth. And I know, look, I can go on for this for hours. You can watch so many of my other videos out there, and they're there for your taking. But it only gets better when you get better. So we got to start now. Begin. The rest is easy. I'll talk to you soon, my friends. I'll see you out there. Peace.